The teams are in. It is going to be a huge, big freeze game. Let's get into it. No real surprises at the selection table from Collingwood. It was pretty much what we knew was going to happen. Dan McStay comes in, Will Hayes comes in. And obviously going out is Lockie Schultz with that hamstring injury. We won't see him for about 6 weeks. And Patrick Lipinski with that concussion. But he's starting to run, which is really good. And, we'll obviously go into the St Kilda game, hopefully, which will be nice as well. So let's talk about Dan McStay. Has been named on the field, and this will be his first game since Anzac Day, which was about round 7 when he did his knee. So we've been without the big triple M's for, 8 weeks or so, which is just insane to think because that game felt like yesterday, and it also felt like it was 3 years ago. Time is a construct. Time doesn't exist. We just put numbers next to it. It doesn't exist. But that's another video for another channel. But with Dan McStay in the team now, what does that mean? It means that he will most likely be doing second ruck work. We sort of experimented last week with just Darcy Cameron as the sole ruckman, but then you saw Myercheck, you saw Frampton, you saw even Ned Long go up and take the ruck contests. When Frampton was doing centre circle contests, we lacked in the back line. We let the team kick 2 goal line goals, which you don't really want to do, right? You don't want to let Hawthorn or just any team kick 2 goals right in the goal line because you haven't got your fullback there because he has to ruck. Now, with Dan McStay, I do prefer him to anyone in this team as a ruckman, a second ruckman. But my only gripe, and probably your gripe as well, is will his knee hold up? Now, he wouldn't be playing if he wasn't 110%. Let's get that out of the way. I know it's going to be wet. I know it's going to be rainy, and the ground's going to be slippery, and there's a game going on tonight as well. So that's not going to help. But, what does that mean for McStay in that ruck position? I think we might see something a little bit different. So I reckon McStay doesn't do any rucking. Not doesn't do any rucking. We will see McStay do a little bit of rucking, but I think around the grounds, Ned Long is going to do more of the ruck work. So I think a bit of like what Patrick Cripps does. But I dare say we see Darcy Cameron ruck for most of the game. I think he'll ruck for I think it's usually about 80% of the game he's rucking. Maybe we see his numbers creep up a little bit because not that I don't trust Dan McStay in the ruck with his knee. I just wouldn't want him to see rucking more than 10, 15% of the game. Or or just even in the center bounces with that big run and jump. I don't mind him doing boundary work and, around the grounds if he has to, or just in the forward 50, because you're not sort of really running and jumping. But in that center circle, you're running and jumping up against Max Gawn. You don't want to be landing awkwardly on your knee or anything like that. So that would be my only concern. Now, the next guy we bring in is Will Hayes. Now, we love Will Hayes, right? He's named on the bench, which means that he probably will be named as a substitute. So we know that the substitute gets named from the players on the bench an hour before the game. Houston, Pendles, Will Hoskin-Elliott, Sullivan, and Hayes are the 5 players on the bench. It'll either be out of Hayes or Sullivan, I dare say. I know we've seen Pendles with the sub-fairs before, but I think this game calls for Pendles to, not be introduced in the 3rd or 4th quarter. Lucky Sullivan was the substitute last week. Do they give him a full game or 3/4 of a game, or at least start the game? I don't mind Will Hayes as the sub. He's quick. He's got good footy IQ. Does that mean that he, would make a good sub? Yes and no. It just depends what they're sort of going for. I don't mind Lockie Sullivan as the sub, though, because he can come in like a bit of a torpedo missile into the contest at 3/4 time when everyone's legs are getting a little bit heavy. Then Lockie Sullivan just does his role really well. Probably one of the best role players in the team. But that is Collingwood's selections. And, on the emergency as well, we've got Tom Mitchell, Will Parker, and Oscar Steen. This is the first time I think Tom Mitchell has been named since that Anzac Day game last year, when he did that injury. So I think Tom Mitchell, that's his first named game, which is good. he's had an okay game in the VFL, but he had a full game in the VFL. So I don't think we're going to call him up. We're just filling a name there, right? But it's nice to see him on the emergency list. And then Oscar Steen, I think he is going to debut really, really, really soon. I'd probably even debut him against the Saints at Marvel, or maybe even West Coast. Give Darcy Cameron a rest, maybe, but that's for another video. Now, let's look at Melbourne's ins and outs. So going in, they've got Jacob Van Rooyen, Colton Thulstrup, and Blake Howes. So 2 forwards and a backman. And then going out, they've got Bailey Laurie, Harry Sharp, who have been omitted, and Aiden Johnson came in last week, copped... Who did he hit high? He hit someone high. Wangan Miliera, and copped 2 weeks for it, right? So they come out of the team. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, JVR, he's kicked X amount of goals in the VFL, and he's had good form coming in, and Thulstrup is this player, and I don't know much about other teams, right? I only care about Collingwood, right? So I thought, and a bit of a new sort of segment to Team Talk, and one inspired by Teresa. So if you're watching, TJ, thank you so much. I've delved into the Facebook comments and the some Instagram comments on the team selection for Melbourne, and I wanted to see what their fans were saying about the selection. Now, I tried to keep this unbiased and find good and bad about the team selection. Could only find bad, apparently. Apparently, they don't like the team selection, right? One person says, terrible selection once again. So, full stop, I don't know who they sort of bring in. I know there was talks of Matthew Jefferson, who is another key forward who has done amazing things in the VFL, but they've went with JVR. JVR can help out with the ruck work a little bit as well. We saw that with the last time we played Melbourne. Another person says, right, so 45-point loss is in the book. These guys are already writing this game off by a long while, and 3 people agree with him. This one I liked. It was a bit more nuanced. They say, I wouldn't have dropped Sharp for Thulstrup, and Tom McDonald should be picked before Howes. So 10 people agreed with that. Someone else replied and said, Howes is not strong enough in contests, T-Mac for sure. Now, Tom McDonald played in the VFL for Casey Demons against the Pies yesterday, so obviously he couldn't be picked playing that full game. What's interesting to me is that, this one of these people says that Howes isn't strong enough in contests, and they're preferring, the 30-something-year-old T-Mac. I think the Triple M's might have a day out tomorrow. I know they've got, still May and Lever, but, it's not only Myercheck, McStay, and Memory. They've still got Jamie Elliott. Bobby Hill can pop up for a couple, so it's going to be really, really interesting. And the last 2 here, this person says game over at the selection table. They've just gone game over. And this last person says, I'm saying game over after the selection. So a lot of Melbourne fans aren't loving the team selection. Interesting, because you've still got really good players. Gawn, Oliver, Sparrow, Pickett, Petrarca, Lever. Like, these are still premiership players. They're still a good team. And you got to think that Melbourne have won the last 5 of 6 games or something like that. They've been getting back into form. So I know last week was a little bit of a blowout because they just couldn't kick straight in that last half. I dare say that does change a little bit because they're going to be practicing that at training. But it's just interesting to see what other fans are saying. And I think next week when I do team talk, I'll look at what Collingwood fans are saying about our team selection. Not next week. It'll be the week after when we play against St Kilda. But those are the team selections as it stands. Maybe there's a late change. Who really knows? Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you like our ins? Do you know a lot about Melbourne's ins and outs? Leave your thoughts down below. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets. And until next time, double shacking. Whoa. I'll swoop you later.